Hello, dear friends. This world has become so conspiratorial that the boundaries between simulation and reality has become very blurred, to the extent that the Davos Forum is under the shadow of suspicion with its annual simulacra called Polygon, because all creators of solutions are often also creators of problems. Opinion piece: Global cyber-attack risk. Davos Forum to simulate cyber-attack. Polygon 2020 simulated a cyber assault. A cyber-plandemic would be worse than the current crisis. People's beliefs influence their actions. It would paralyze power supply, transportation, and hospitals. Catalyzing event could be days away. Cyber attacks are becoming increasingly sophisticated and dangerous. Fourth industrial revolution would put many people out of work. China's GDP soars by 18.3% in the first quarter of the year. China is already preparing a digital yuan backed by gold and imports ingots. Beijing displaces New York as the billionaire capital of the world. Big banks unleash reserves in the face of the upswing and soars, and so profits. Asset inflation causes bubbles that are on the verge of bursting. Dangerous escalation of war on Ukraine's border is underway. Let's start. The cybersecurity exercise called Polygon will simulate this year, starting July 9th, a fictional cyber attack with participants from dozens of countries responding to an alleged targeted supply chain attack on a corporate ecosystem in real time. In quotes. The International Capacity Building Initiative aims to increase global cyber resilience and the expansion of cross-sector cooperation against cyber threats. Polygon is an annual online event that connects various global organizations to build their competencies, exchange best practices, and bring tangible results to the global community. Definition: Polygon is a unique cybersecurity event that combines the world's largest technical training exercise for corporate teams and an online conference attended by senior leaders from international organizations and leading companies. The 2021 conference discusses the key risks of digitalization and best practices for the secure development of digital ecosystem. 120 teams from 29 countries participated in the 2020 cybersecurity technical training. The live broadcast reached 5 million viewers from 57 countries. A cyber attack is any offensive maneuver targeting information systems, infrastructure, computer networks, or personal computing devices. An attacker is a person or process that attempts to gain unauthorized access to data, functions, and other restricted areas of the system, potentially with malicious intent. A cyber attack can still alter or destroy a specific target by hacking into a susceptible system. Cyber attacks can range from installing spyware on a personal computer to attempting to destroy the infrastructure of entire nations. Cyber attacks have become increasingly sophisticated and dangerous. Simulacro. In 2020, the World Economic Forum conducted a high-profile cyber attack simulation targeting the financial industry called Polygon 2020, that predicted an impending global catastrophe caused by worldwide cyber crisis. An actual event that would pave the way for a reboot of the global economy and reboot or restart, and may have been more than a typical planning exercise, as it bears similarities to the World Economic Forum sponsored pandemic drill event 201 or 201, which briefly preceded the health crisis. Last year, the World Economic Forum partnered with the Russian government and global banks to run a high-profile cyber-attack simulation targeting the financial industry, a real event that would pave the way for a reboot of the global economy. The simulation, called Polygon, may have been more than a typical planning exercise. This year's Polygon will simulate a fictional cyber attack with participants from dozens of countries responding to a targeted supply chain attack on a corporate ecosystem in real time, in quotes. According to the World Economic Forum, the event will involve partners such as Banco Santander, Bizone, IBM, Interpol, Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, Mobile Telesystems, Sberbank, Ericsson, Trend Micro, and Visa. In his welcome address to Polygon 2020, World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab warned of a coming cyber pandemic that would be worse than the current global crisis. In quotes, "We all know, but still don't pay enough attention to, the terrifying scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack which would completely paralyze power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole," he said. The health crisis would be seen in this sense as small disruption compared to a full-scale cyber attack, in his opinion. Predictive programming. Predictive programming is the original name of a formal method for program specification and refinement, more recently called practical programming theory, invented by Eric Henner. The central idea is that each specification is a binary expression that is true for acceptable computing behaviors and false for acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. A self-fulfilling prophecy is the social psychological phenomenon of someone predicting or expecting something, and this prediction or expectation comes true simply because the person believes it will, and the person's resulting behaviors align to fulfill the belief. This suggests that people's beliefs influence their actions. The principle behind this phenomenon is that people create consequences regarding people or events based on prior knowledge of the subject. Polygon 2020 predictably timed a cyber attack on the supply chain similar to the SolarWinds attack that occurred earlier this year. This would be part of the Economics Forum planned Great Reset, which was publicly announced several months ago as a necessary stimulus to transition to a new world order. This Great Reset, we were told, involves, in quotes, the coordinated transition to a global economy of the fourth industrial revolution, in which human workers become increasingly irrelevant. One of the biggest proponents of the Great Reset is globalist and forum founder Klaus Schwab, who seems to yearn for the control of billions of people to facilitate entry into the coming golden age, as known as the Great Tribulation or the time of Jacob's trouble. In quotes, "New economic systems that are digitally based and associated with or managed by central banks are a key part of the Great Forum reset, and such systems would be part of the answer to controlling the masses of the recently unemployed, he explains, and continue in quotes. As others have pointed out, these digital monopolies, not just financial services, would allow those who control them to shut down a person's money and access to services if that person doesn't comply with certain laws, mandates, and regulations. Close quotes. Catalyst event. The catalyst event that would trigger the Great Davos Forum reset could be just days away. On the event's recently updated website for Polygon 2021, the next phase of change involves, in quotes, a single vulnerable link in the global cyber network that would be exploited to bring down the entire system like a domino effect. Based on the description of this upcoming event, it appears that the Forum and other globalist entities would be planning to bring down the entire system in order to rebuild it in a completely new image. All of this would relate directly to universal basic income, once Robert Wheeler of the Organic Prepper blog. The very popular universal basic income, introduced with even more vigor after the healthcare crisis, has popularized consistent stimulus payments to survive the crisis. The idea of basic income has been floated as a solution to poverty for some time, with bloggers like Daisy Luther comparing it to modern-day feudalism. To be sure, the basic components of this technological control grid are already in place. All that needs to happen next is for the plug to be pulled, which has not yet happened according to Bible prophecy, and will not happen until the catch is removed. The Davos Forum called this new model stakeholder capitalism, which is really nothing more than the merger of the public and private sectors into one beast. It is a system much more akin to the corporatist style than anything else, observers have noted. All of this is in quotes. Previous mentioned. To get to that point, the existing system would have to be burnt to the ground so that it could be resurrected in this new globalist system. With that change would come the abolition of free enterprise and personal ownership, and an absolute transition to a global absolutism. They always tell us what they plan to do before they do it. From 9/11 to event 201 or 201, wrote one commenter at Zero Edge observing the trend, but I believe they will fail. Prediction. This is another issue. A time traveler announces that a major event will occur on October 7th, 2021 in the Atlantic Ocean. The TikToker known as That One Time Traveler, with 1.2 million followers, has made the following prediction that I don't believe in because it's so hard to predict the future. In quotes, remember the date October 7th, 2021. Something amazing was found in the Atlantic Ocean, he says in a video posted on March 28th. Excuse me. In quotes, the discovery changes the waters forever, and it also changes human lives forever. Mark the date. You'll want to remember this. The day is I repeat, October 7th, 2021. In another of these controversial videos, he claims he is from the year 2485 and works for a company called Aura, which was created a time machine. In quotes, I live on a small planet called Vado, the alleged time traveler adds. It's one of the smallest planets we would found with reliable sources and signs of life. And in an even stranger revelation, the time traveler says that the giant asteroid would cause the destruction of Earth on July 6, 2788. However, in quotes, at that time, we have successfully civilized on Mars, the Moon, and many other planets. Adds that one time traveler. But I don't believe it. Escalation of war in Ukraine. Daily, huge transport planes bring tons of military equipment for the Ukrainian army. On top of that, the US has begun activating and transporting at least 40,000 US troops to the Eastern Front against Russia. Add that number to the tens of thousands of US troops in Europe along with even more NATO forces, and you can see how this would be turning into a major military campaign. According to Sourcefield, Dmitry Peskov stated that the West, the West led by the US, would be pushing Ukraine towards provocations. They verbally declare that they are not interested in inciting a conflict, but in reality they are allocating funds for arming the Ukrainian army, increasing the presence of ships in the Black Sea, planning a series of joint drills, and delivering lethal weapons, training Ukrainian military, and intensifying reconnaissance activity in the Crimea area, using aircraft and radio electronic means. In recent days alone, more than 5 military transport aircraft have arrived in Ukraine from US air bases. The Ukrainian head of the Defense Ministry main intelligence directorate, Kirilo Budanov, stated that Russia will have concentrated 110,000 troops on the Ukrainian border by April 20th. A statement accompanied by the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, William Burns, telling the US Senate that Russia has amassed enough military forces and equipment on the Ukrainian border to allow a Russian incursion into the country. In quotes, more than 100,000 Russian troops in assault vehicles painted with invasion stripes were heading toward Ukraine's border Wednesday, intensifying fears of war between the neighboring nations. The advance force includes 1,300 battle tanks, 3,700 drones, 1,300 artillery and mortar units, and 380 launches multiple rocket systems. Economy. Big US bank release reserves ahead of the improvement, boost profits. Big US banks, led by JP Morgan Chase, continue to release the default reserves they built up to deal with the healthcare crisis ahead of the progress of the economic recovery in the first quarter of 2021, boosting profits. 3 banks benefit from improving economy. US banks JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Goldman Sachs saw their first quarter earning rise on the back of an improving economy and healthy financial markets. Asset inflation has caused real bubbles that are about to burst. The purchasing power of the dollar is not increasing, and what we have in asset inflation, which with a moderate rise in the prices of the shopping basket, fuel and things like that, but with real bubbles in other products such as assets, and those bubbles are about to burst according to the Kaiser report. Turkey bans cryptocurrency payments. Turkey's central banks announced Friday that it bans direct and indirect payments with cryptocurrencies and crypto assets because of risks during transactions. The announcement, published in the official state gazette, has caused the Bitcoin to fall by 3% and stood 50.732 euros per unit at 10 GMT. Several victims after shooting at FedEx facility near Indianapolis International Airport. At least 8 people were killed and several injured after a shooting at FedEx facility near Indianapolis International Airport in the US Thursday night, local media report. China again. China GDP soars 18.3% in first quarter of year, strongest increase since 1992 records. China's gross domestic product soared 18.3% in the first quarter from a year earlier, driven by a surge in demand and government support for small businesses, according to data announced Friday by the Asian country's National Bureau of Statistics. China prepares gold-backed digital yuan. The People's Bank of China has given permission to import large amounts of gold bullion, the most since 2019. Around 150 tons of gold worth $8.5 billion dollars, at current prices, is likely to be shipped for 4 sources said. 2 of the sources said the bullion would be shipped in April. 2 others said it would arrive in China in April and May. The news sent gold prices soaring. Beijing displaces New York to become billionaire capital of the world. For the first time in 7 years, New York City has lost its title as the billionaire capital of the world. Statista Neil McCarthy reports that in 2020, the Big Apple was displaced by Beijing, which recorded a net gain of 33 billionaires. Beijing is now in first place with 100 people worth $1 billion or more, well ahead of New York's 99. China becomes America's top enemy. According to the annual Threat Assessment Report, Beijing, Moscow, Tehran, and Pyongyang have demonstrated their ability and intent to advance their interests at the expense of the US and its allies. China is increasingly a close competitor, challenging the US in multiple arenas, especially economically, military, and technologically, and is pushing to change global norms. Bizarre news. Release of transgenic mosquitoes in the Florida Keys, the Florida Cayos. Biotechnology company Oxitec has announced that it will release genetically modified mosquitoes in the Florida Cayos. These mosquitoes have been genetically altered in a way that causes them to pass on self-limiting genes to offspring. When the modified male mosquitoes breed with wild female mosquitoes, the females of the new generation will not be able to survive to adulthood, which has the effect of reducing the overall mosquito population. Disney television executive confesses to rejecting incredibly well-written scripts for not being inclusive enough. The network appears to be in full compliance with new alignments that require at least half of the recurring characters to be from some minority group. Walt Disney Television Entertainment Director Dana Walden said, in quotes, "We have received some incredibly well-written scripts that have not met our standards in terms of inclusivity, and we rejected them." Chimeric monkey and human embryos created for the first time. An international team of scientists provided a new example of the integration of human cells with animal tissue by creating for the first time chimeric macaque and human embryos, which they have kept alive for 19 days to understand how our cells develop and integrate, and how cells from different species interact with each other. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friend, and thank you for listening to me. I wish you happiness.